What's up, bikers? Welcome to the BKER Bar Podcast live stream, episode 138. Today, we have the one and only Brian Kennedy, BKXC. Super excited to have him on the show. I looked before we started, and the last time he was on was episode 96. So it's been a while. We're at episode 138, and if you're good at math, figure that out. Otherwise, yeah, it's been a while. So I think we have a lot of catching up to do. But before we get started, first of all, thank you guys to all you on Patreon. Honestly, just saw somebody pop on today. It was $1, but hey, every dollar helps. If you're interested in helping out the channels, both of them, you can help them both out by swinging by Patreon. It's as cheap as $1. Just give you some peace of mind, maybe a little extra coupon codes for some places that I've worked with in the past. Otherwise, it's like throwing a tip to your bartender, man. A guy pours you a drink, boom, you give him $1. So it's just the same over here on the Patreon situation. If you want to go a little bit more, there's some extra content and lots of fun stuff on there. Go ahead and check it out. If you want something for free, go to my Instagram or my Facebook, give it a follow. Apparently there's like 140 people following me on Twitter, and I never do anything there except for like check the little box when I'm on Instagram. It says posted over there. So thank you guys on Twitter. Someday I'll pay attention to you. But until then, if you want the free content other than YouTube, swing by Facebook or Instagram, get a follow over there. So that's really good. It helps me out. Honestly, when I'm talking to different companies, they see what my social following is. So even if you don't give a shit, just go over there, hit follow. It doesn't take much effort, right? Anyways, let's move on from there. What else is new? Oh, I put a couple of new things up on the shop. So there's a drawstring bag now. Imagine that. I really just designed this stuff for myself. And I wanted something to carry my clothes around in whenever I'm like going riding, other than this bag that I stole from my lady. So I made a drawstring bag last night. That's what I spent my time on. So it looks like a sticker bombed bag that you just throw on, a little green bag with it. Looks like it has all the different shirt designs and sticker designs that I've had over the years are all popped on there. So it's kind of fun. Anyways, go ahead and check that out. Let's try that again. Shop.biker.com, or you can just go to biker.com, B1KER.com. Hit the shop link. You'll be good to go. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and bring Brian back on. What's up, man? How's it going?
Howdy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude. Like I said just a minute ago, I really appreciate you popping on like short notice. I have really tried this year to work on my work-life balance with YouTube, And so what I've been doing with the BKER Bar is I'm purposely not scheduling out very far. Like I used to schedule out like 2 months, like where it'd be.
Yeah.
But then things would come up and it'd be like last minute. I'd be like, man, I wish I didn't have this show this weekend. I could go on this awesome camping trip or whatever it is. And so I've been trying to like do like 2 weeks at the most, but sometimes I forget. And that's where I was. Either that or I can't remember, whatever it was. So nonetheless, man, what's new with you, dude? 500K?
Yeah, 500,000 subscribers. Pretty cool for a milestone. So in another 6 years, I'll have 1 million subscribers, and then in 60 years, I'll have 10 million subscribers. So yeah, in 600 years, I'll have 100 million subscribers.
You stay at the exact same growth rate. So it's been 6 years.
Yeah, 6.5 years since I started my YouTube channel, and like around 6 years when I quit my job. That was like September, October 2006 or 2016. What is it? Yeah, something like that.
Wow, man. That's crazy. I was just talking about your channel the other day to somebody, and like really you were the one that got me watching mountain bike YouTube from posting on MTBR. I was telling that like I was like, yeah, man, I never even watched YouTube I didn't even think about it for bikes back then. It was like cat videos or maybe like fix my water heater. You know what I mean?
And I can't remember how I even stumbled upon, like maybe it was even Reddit or something like that, how I stumbled upon Nate Hill's video on Hangover that was like, wait a second, this actually sounds good and it looks good. What the heck is going on here? I hate mountain bike YouTube videos. Like it's just, the GoPro was just such a piece of garbage back then. And somehow it's actually evolved into something worth watching.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I was looking at some footage yesterday that VanCan had posted on the Slack group, where he was talking about one of the new I think it was like the Insta 360, the new one. And the footage on there is just like, I mean, it's not quite up to the same par as GoPro, but it's freaking amazing compared to what we started out like having to wear, like back then, like wearing this big old gimbal and all this other stuff. And now you have these cameras that it's the entry level, or the point of entry, the price of entry is so much lower than it used to be.
Definitely. And hopefully, I mean, it's been 6 years, it's been 10 years since GoPro's been going. So just, you would hope every year that this stuff actually does kind of get better and start blowing our doors off, because something's got to get better if technology can't get better every year, everything else is kind of screwed up. But at least hopefully our cameras get better.
Where do you think it goes? How far do you think it goes?
Oh man, I think I think it goes with like not even having cameras anymore. It's just AI generated, and it kind of like, if you come up with a storyline, it just like puts a story together or something. It's just so funny when you think of beyond the actual physical experience. But I think it should be pretty quick by now to have like 3 cameras, and you could have 3 different places, and then it just can kind of auto kind of stitch together something, or like kind of AI upscaling and stabilization and all that stuff should just be like a very, very cool high res experience. And we're not there yet, but it's coming.
I wonder how long it takes until we're like filming in a VR kind of manner, where like somebody could just put on goggles and like really feel like they're there. You know,
it's so close too, because really kind of that VR thing started with like, oh, let's do 360 full immersion. And now it's kind of back to just like, not Etch-a-Sketch, what was that? When you're a little kid, the Viewmaster. Two different things, right? So it's like you're looking at Sesame Street, Bert and Ernie, like in 3D. So like more and more content that I've been kind of poking around on in VR movie-wise is just that you're still looking at a screen, but it's 2 cameras, so it has that depth to it versus like the overwhelming crappy quality of like, oh, I can look everywhere. So that's totally possible now. A chin mount with 2 GoPros and then stereoscopically stitching that together in Final Cut or whatever, and then uploading it to like VR YouTube. That's something that is totally possible right now, but I've never seen it done. And just getting that depth, like, so many people on my last video, I had a couple like cliff edges and stuff, and they're like, oh my God, it made me sick. I had to turn it off. Oh, your wife must be so angry at you for going on these cliff edges. And it's like, the cliff edges is the one thing that the GoPro actually does good. Like me barreling down some super steep rock slab in Squamish is like, oh, yeah, that's cool. Versus if you saw it in real life, you'd crap your pants. And like all these people are like, oh my God, like the cliff edges. And it's like, it's nothing in real life. It's like, yes, it is still an edge, but it's not this crazy like agoraphobia or whatever that is, a cliffophobia kind of thing. Yeah. So there's, it's there. We just need like more experimentation and more kind of like people thinking outside the box. I've wanted to do it for so long, to get the 2 GoPros, because like there's 3D printed mounts that will get 2 GoPros, but it's very tough because you have to turn off all software stabilization, and like the GoPros have to kind of line up enough for it to look good through 2 eyes. And it would take me like a month to mess with it. And then it's like, does anybody care?
Right. I would imagine though, it's got to get to a point where you can like, where it is the whole 3D experience. Because I could see in my head the way I listened to this Rogan and Zuckerberg podcast the other day.
Yeah.
And Zuckerberg's like really big on VR and augmented reality. Like that's the big push for Meta, right? And he was talking about like, how many things do you do that you don't actually need like a physical thing to like do, right? And it started making me like, he was talking in the terms of the conversation, he was talking about like, hey, if you and I want to play Monopoly, we can do it online.
Totally.
With just like this like thing that we see with these glasses on, right? With a
totally.
But then it started making me think about like riding bikes, and I'm like, man, all these people on like shoot, what's the name of that? There's that bike app that everybody's like does on the trainer.
Why can't I think of it either? Dang it. It's not Strava. I see the logo in my head. Oh, Zwift.
That's it. Yeah. So like, why wouldn't you want to like go ahead and load like, hey, I'm loading Portal today and I'm gonna ride it, and you can be on the freaking like cliff and looking down and like, oh shit.
And all the the cool thing about like, if you think of a car driving simulator and a flight simulator, a bike simulator is perfect because all the touch points are your butt's on the saddle, your hands are on the handlebars, and then you could rig up a bike with all those like gyros and like those pistons and stuff that you see. Like you could really actually do like kind of weightlessness, and you could do pumps. You could do a lot with a 3D simulator of the bike, and then you put the goggles on, and then all of a sudden you're in it, you're riding. And oh man, can you imagine like doing a jump, but it feels kind of weightless somehow? That would be kind of maybe a little more advanced.
Picturing those freaking horses from when we were young that had springs on each corner.
Yeah, you know? Exactly. That's totally what it is. Put a quarter in and go for a ride. But I've seen some of those like car driving simulators are badass right now, and I don't know if anybody's really taken on the mountain bike, because you take off the front wheel and you have a fork mount, and then take off the back wheel and do some kind of rear axle mount, and you get that thing going.
Trainers out that do have like they'll raise the front tire and they'll do some things to like make you feel like you're
a little more.
But it can't be long, and especially it seems like this sport is really growing. Like I don't know if it's just COVID or it's like personal bias because we're in it. Yeah. But it seems like it is definitely becoming more and more of a normal thing that like Joe that used to just run, now he goes out and rides bike. Or, you know what I mean? Like
and the pandemic helped get exposure to everybody. And like, even if you got a bike and you don't really ride it enough or whatever, I think it's still a huge thing. And people once you get your claws into it, the price is always the killer thing. And if, price is always tough, but if you get that bike and you actually get a friend or get a hand-me-down bike and you get into it, it just goes from there. It's like your identity.
Yeah, totally. It's I had a conversation with somebody once that made a really good point too, is because you're always like fitness is so rented, you know what I mean? Like you stop for a week and you feel it, and so you're always trying to make sure like, hey, I need that ride every weekend, or because you don't want to lose where you're at or whatever it is. And because of that, you really end up with just like other bike friends. It's really hard to have friends that aren't bike friends, because nobody else is like, yeah, I'm going to go out and do something while you pedal around for like 5 hours.
Yeah. And there's only so much time that everyone has where it's like, if I have a Saturday off, I got to go get out and ride. And so where's my riding buddies? And instead of just going by yourself, you have your friends and go explore new places.
It is unbelievable to me how fast it can go away. Like I've been riding a lot lately, like for the most part, a lot of weeks, like 5-6 days a week.
Wow.
And I had a crash in Pennsylvania like a month ago, and because of it, I took a week off. And just getting back on the bike after that week, it was like, holy crap, man. Like just this climb is already like so much harder.
Brutal.
Yeah.
I hate that. Yeah. I had when I was redoing the Nugatorium, it was like a month. I didn't ride my bike for a month, and then I was able to actually like hop back in and do so. I think I was still doing some workouts, kind of, sort of, but it didn't kill me as much as I thought it would. And
well, that's good. You do. Do you still do the CrossFit stuff?
I do. I've kind of popped in here and there. I love doing CrossFit, but I have a pull-up bar in my garage now, so it makes it very easy to do. Like my favorite workout that I do is this thing. I call it like the multiplier, but I don't know if it has a real name or not. But it's very, very simple. You do 20 pull-ups, 30 push-ups, 40 sit-ups, and 50 air squats. And that's like one set. And I've timed it before, and like you go all out, but you don't have to. And then take a little break and then do another one of those and another one. So you try to do 3 sets of those. And it's just the best workout of all time because you're doing everything and it's not like lifting heavy weights or anything. It's just doing the body weight stuff. And I love it. So that's like my go-to of like, if I need to work out for an hour, I can do that. And then sometimes I'll do it 4 times, which is just almost impossible, but it's cool.
So it's like basically a hit kind of workout that you're doing.
Kind of, yeah, because you can kind of sprint into it. But the idea of CrossFit is just so awesome. I just haven't. It's so tough because when I'm traveling all the time, the gym isn't set up to be like, hey, let me just drop in every once. They have like punch cards that you can buy for $100 for so many classes, and it's just it throws off their entire thing for like you to drop in every once in a while. So and it's tough. And then the last time I dropped in, I totally like overdid it, and like I had like run away overheating, and I was just like, oh god, this is actually tough. I forgot how tough this is.
The body weight stuff, though, is really effective. You know, a lot of people, like during COVID, were like, oh, I don't have a gym. And it's like, dude, when I joined the military, we didn't have a gym. We went in basic training. And I put on 35 pounds in just like doing push-ups and sit-ups and flutter kicks and pull-ups, you know, like it's just like, it's not like you need a big like system, you know?
Yeah, totally. It's just that setting aside the time. That's the number one thing is always the time.
Yeah, it's the work, man. You have to do the work. And
when it's cold in the morning and you're like, oh God, I want to do this before I eat breakfast. But like, it's just, that's the difference. That's the entire difference of winners and losers. And most of the time I'm a loser.
Dude, I injured my shoulder a while back. And because of that, I decided to stop working out because I just know whenever I go to the gym, instead of actually not working that shoulder, I would be like, oh, well, it's okay. I'll do this. And I knew I would just like kind of string it on or string the injury along longer. And I don't know if that was the right decision looking back, but it is what it is now. And I've just been trying to get that motivation to get back into the gym. And it is tough, man. It's tough to like change your schedule again. You know what I mean? You always are looking at your day thinking, I don't have enough time to add something else. You know?
Yeah. And you're like, okay, this and this and this, and like, what's more? And just like that total overwhelming feeling of like, how is this ever going to be possible? Or how did I do it? And it's always about like, it kind of, when you're on a roll, it's your identity. It's like, I can't live without this. This is what I do. And I remember times where I had a normal job and I was riding 3 days a week. Like I would take like a lunch break. Like I lived close enough when I worked at Pots and Pans, I could ride my bike home or I went home for a ride and like did a ride for an hour and then like hopped in the shower and then came back to work kind of thing. Or it's like ultimate dedication. Like what the heck? I was just so obsessed and it was like, this is who I am. This is what I do. I want to get faster and this is what it takes.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's definitely, it's interesting how that works out. You know, once you actually change your schedule to be something, then it's like you said, you don't even think about it. Like I know plenty of times where it'd be like, yeah, I want to squeeze in a ride and we're going to go on vacation and the flight leaves at noon. I'm like, fuck it. I'm getting up at 5:30 and I'm going to go like bang out this 20-mile road ride real quick. You know,
that's like, something. Yes. That's like real dedication. I listened to Cameron Haynes, you know, he's been on Rogan a bunch, the hunter guy. He's like the world-class bow hunter, like just out of this world and really, really interesting book. But I stopped listening because he has a normal job. He works at like a sanitation plant still. And it's like, I have no respect for you for having a regular job still. Don't have a regular job. The whole point is to not have a regular job. And he's like, I have to wake up at 4 a.m. and run he runs 20 miles a day. It's like, he does like these marathon length things. He's a world-class athlete, spends all this time like doing the bow hunting stuff. And like, but I still go to my job at the sanitation plant. It's like, what? You have a wife and kids. Like, stop.
Yeah, man, who knows, right? Some people just they have their
ultimate screw loose, I would say.
Yeah, right. So this year, was it just this year you started your park company, Trail One? Or was it last year?
November. It launched November last year. Yep. So just about 1 year in.
So I know when you first started the channel, you had always had these ideas of you wanted to have some kind of sustainable business that you built out of it, aside from the video production stuff. And was a part component company, like, was that in there then, or was that did it just come about some other way?
It came about like it was because, I'm not so obsessed about the gear. That's the thing. I'm always more obsessed about the trails and the experiences and stuff. Like, so for me to do it on my own to make components is like, that would have never worked. But since I partnered with Jeff from Worldwide Cyclery, he is that kind of obsessed person. He gets like all the diameters of this is why the grips are this wide and this is why they're this long and all that stuff. And then some of our other partners, like our designer, Colm O'Kane in Ireland, that like gets all the like the hardcore details. So it was very cool to like partner with these guys that get all that angle, all that stuff that I don't really get. And versus like, yes, these are great grips and here's a story behind these grips. And we donate $1 to Kajabi Mountain Biking in Kenya because of these grips, and they're named this because of this, and all that kind of like the storytelling stuff was always like a great part of it, of like, what could we do that could like tell a story and like have this story behind this brand that everybody has these brands and these names of things, but who are these people and what do they do? And kind of being able to elevate that as a story. And bike components are a natural, especially when you can make them really good and actually work out, and it's badass stuff.
How's that process go for you? Like for the grips, for example, like, is that like you started out with, hey, just make me a grip? Or was it like, this is kind of what I'm thinking, I like fat grips, or I like, how does that go?
Yeah. So that's what's great about like Jeff and Worldwide Cyclery. It's like they have 18 different grips in stock, and they run all the guys there and gals like run different stuff all the time. So they're like, okay, we really like this about the DMR Death Grip. We really like this about the ODI Pro, whatever. We really like this about the ESI. And we just kind of Frankensteined it all together of like, okay, this is a good width, but maybe let's make it thicker because we like that. And then, okay, move this down. What about these little knuckle pads? And just being able to like do a brain dump like that, and then give it to our designer engineer guy, Colm. And he like really does a great job. And we say, oh, what about moving this or doing this? And then we can do like 3D printed prototypes and actually feel it and touch it and be like, okay, this is good. And then send it out to the factory and say, okay, let's get a sample. And what is this? And then you actually see like, oh, this is kind of weird. Let's move this over here and fix that. And then off to the races of like, okay, let's do 10,000 of these grips and spend $100,000 on them. And hopefully we'll sell a few.
Wow. That's crazy. I actually have a set of those grips like right here behind me. From Mark from the segment, send them up to me. And every time I keep being like, oh yeah, I'm gonna put those on my bike, and then I forget. So maybe after today, I actually have to put my bike back together. I'm gonna throw them on there because I need some new grip.
Once the old ones wear down, then you pop some new ones on. And I love the grips. I'm stoked on them. And people think they're kind of a little too thick kind of thing. But then it's funny because all the comments we get is like, when are you gonna have a thick grip? It's like, this is kind of a thicker grip. Like it's funny. Like, how do you convey that with like, nobody's taking out like a measuring tape and being like, oh, 31.8 versus 36.
Yeah. I actually do look at that size because I prefer thick grips. And there's so many times that I've bought a grip that I was like, oh man, this looks rad. And then I get them and they're like super skinny. So to me, I'm like, I definitely pay attention to that. So that's one of the things that made me excited to try yours out.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely right now. I had just put on a set of the P&W ones because they had came out with the thick ones a while back, and I've been meaning to try them, and I forgot I had yours. And they had that sale the other day, so I ordered some, and so they're on right now. But I am definitely ready to give those a run. I'm excited to try them out. What's your favorite product so far?
The grips are my favorite product for sure, but like the different stems are awesome. To have like 3 different stems of like a made in California stem is just like really, really cool. The Rockville stem, and just I think with my new bike, I'm going to get something like kind of made up where it's like kind of anodized in a different color, like a one-off kind of thing. So I'm excited about that. I haven't seen it yet, but hopefully get it here soon to build up my new bike and stuff. But it's just neat to like get in on the process and figure out different things. Cause different things like a handlebar, is a handlebar, but like at least the grips, you can kind of change things and you can kind of like make it its own. And, we're a new brand. So it's not like we could put $5 million into R&D and come up with a brand new novel thing. It's like everything starts like, okay, we can get this first base layer of like really good stuff. And then, make a little iterations and movements forward. And like Specialized started with like importing Italian pedals and stuff. So that's how everything starts, is like just this first layer. Then hopefully it builds up.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking about Jeff from Worldwide earlier, and he started selling water bottles on eBay, right?
Yeah, totally. His whole thing was like having like takeoff parts, and like racers like would get like want to get rid of the parts, I think, and just like figured out how to become like a vendor and all that stuff. It's really neat.
Yeah. No, it's super, super interesting. Is there something that you've thought about creating that not to say that you're like in the process of, just something where you're like, man, someday I think this would be really rad to make?
Like a good multi-tool, kind of like all in one, like a frame strap with a multi-tool. It's like that comes with all the stuff too, that is like very idiot proof, would be so cool. But we've like tried and figured, okay, this, and what about this? And then this is too big. And then this strap is kind of weird. It's funny how like hard of a problem it is when you look at the market and it's like, oh yeah, they don't sell all that stuff together for some reason, kind of thing. But that's just like, boom. Yeah. You buy this when you get a new bike, you buy this, and it's the one-stop shop versus like, wait, what do I need? Do I have to get this or do that? And even coming up with some kind of novel thing where it like goes on the seat post or goes somewhere where it's kind of all stealth and stuff. But that's, we're always thinking and working on that stuff. We'll get samples, we'll try this, and it's like, this just doesn't quite work.
Yeah. That multi-tool situation is pretty tough. I mean, unless you're Seth, apparently you can just build one out of.
Yeah.
But the thing that I always run into with the multi-tools that bothers me is, if you get one that's like the right size, then you always run into this bolt that you can't get to because like yours is too short, or like when you try to turn it, now it's like bumping into something and you can't get it to work out.
It's just such a half-ass thing. It's like, yep, when you're on the trail, this can get you kind of, sort of, and it's like,
I will say I used to be one of those guys that over carried in my Camelback, and somewhere along the line, long story short, I ended up like downsizing all the way down to that 1-Up EDC pump with the tool inside of it. And initially I really thought like, oh God, there's no way this is going to work, like, but that thing is really like all in all, for, if I was to say like a top 10 freaking Christmas gift, I think that thing is like, you have air, I can't say like it's gotten me out of pretty much everything I needed to get out of. You know what I mean? It's really, really well rounded. So I don't know.
It's awesome. Like that was definitely a leap forward that everybody was talking about. Like, oh man, then you could like bore it into your steer tube and like actually put the thing in and all that stuff. But that's different than having the pump. Like, but that's like magic. Like coming up with a product like that, it's so cool because it's like it actually is cool to look at, talk about, and then it works on the trail. It's like the total grand slam of a product.
Yeah. And I mean, also like if you don't like, maybe you carry the pump on one bike, but on another bike, you just want it in the steer tube. So you can just pop that piece out, drop it in, you're good, so
totally the modularity.
Yeah. It's really, I mean, the downside is you have to rebuy all these tools that you already have, right? You know what I mean? So it's like, I already have a pump, I already have a multi-tool, and so you're in for like another $150 or something like that. But at the end of the day, I really, really enjoy the versatility, and just grab the pump, move it to my other bike, I'm good to go. So,
definitely.
Yeah. It's definitely pretty handy that way. So outside of that, we were talking about, man, it just got cold in California all of a sudden, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't it seem like 2 weeks ago it was like 100 degrees?
It was like 75 or something. Yeah, for sure. And like I was looking at my energy bill, and when my energy bill is only like $60, that's like kind of the perfect time of year. Because like during the summer, I don't have AC, but I have like a wall unit AC that I'll run, and then the energy bill goes up to like 120. And then now with the winter, it'll go up to 120. But it's like 60 is like, you just know the temperature's been perfect.
Yeah, it's that time of year. with that though, we were talking about the snow up at Everstoke.
Yeah.
How does that really affect what you guys' plans are? Are you pretty much like stop dead for the winter? Or?
No, because so far so good. I think Aaron's going up there today actually, and I was checking on the camera, and there was definitely snow last night or 2 nights ago, and it's almost all melted off. It comes and goes pretty quick, but if you remember, like when Eric came and we were building like his feature, BCPOV feature, like that was in January, and it was like snowing actively, and it was like heavy, and we were doing fine. It was like kind of the craziest thing ever. That it's like, we didn't get too wet. It was comfortable if you have the right clothing, and you can still get stuff done for sure. And now it's like the trail. We're in such a good spot with the trails. Like Aaron has done such an amazing job with all the trails. Now it's still like more of like the $20,000 for the solar panel system or whatever, and to like build a shack to hold the solar panel stuff is like just like totally a cloud hanging over me right now, where it's like, how am I going to figure this out and like get the money and get this done? Because you got to have better we have decent power, but we got to have like lockdown power so we can get water out of the well anytime and pump, for toilets, and just like keep stuff from freezing and all this other stuff that is long-term project. Set aside a dollar a month, and I'll eventually save up.
Well, I think the original, I mean, the big one that you guys had initially was the kind of the septic system, right?
Yeah, and that's all been approved and good to go. So like we'll be able to put a real toilet in. We just got to get more plumbing and water. We got water, so we can get the plumbing and all that stuff going. It's just like burying the pipes enough to not freeze, to go from the well to the area where there would be a toilet and all this stuff. So lots of logistical stuff, but that was a huge thing to get that all permitted and approved and like good to go is like huge.
How far do you think you are from actually having your like little yurt situation or your glamping tent kind of?
Yeah. It just, there's so many X factors. It's all money. If we had the money, just do it tomorrow. Like boom, 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 you get the going. But like to be like, just to be able to like scrape by and be like, okay, we've got enough for this and got enough for this. But we'll see. We got Aaron's in the process of like getting a tiny house built. So like that is like a huge thing. We can park that thing out there. Maybe it can make a couple $100 a night. We will see like if what people think. But that's a huge game changer to like actually have income coming in, and then okay, we can do this and do that. So yeah, it's so many layers.
Why didn't you guys like I know you have, let's just say you have 10 sites on there, right? Why didn't you just like kind of clear them out and make some like level spot and a picnic table and just let people go like rent it to camp or something? Yeah,
and we do have that, but it's more like then you're a campground, and then it's like it's a whole different thing with the county, and like it's just definitely not a like proper thing where it's like, hey, you're a campground now. Why aren't you zoned as a campground? This is a commercial business. It's like it goes out of control versus like the Airbnb thing is this like grandfathered in kind of like everybody knows that like, oh, it's a house, it's an Airbnb. You can have this many, your land is this big and you can have this many units and that kind of thing versus like it's like, I've looked into all the, like the details and all that stuff. And it's like Plumas County is pretty easygoing and stuff, but it's just like, they're just going to show up one day and be like, what the hell's going on here? kind of thing. So we want to do it above board as much as we can.
Yeah, I mean, so the tiny house thing though, that's kind of a good idea. I mean, will they just be like a bedroom, or will it be like a little kitchenette kind of thing too? Or
no, I think it'll be kind of a full-on bedroom with like a kitchen and kind of thing, and we'll see once it shows up kind of thing. But that's magical too, because you're like safe and sound. Like if it's snowing, you can go there in the snow and go enjoy Everstoke, and like it's just such a magical place. We just have to get more people up there and experiencing it and spending the night there and being like, oh wow, okay, this is it. And especially riding the trails now that the trails are doing very, very well, and everything's like getting more and more bedded in, and it's just so cool.
I heard Aaron's actually building a climbable climbing trail, so for the mere mortals.
Last on the list.
I always like to tease him about how steep his climbs are. So we did this trail together, and there's one section that he like punched in. That is just super steep. And every time my whole group of friends, we turn that corner and we're like, God damn. So I know how to like decipher his like Mountainese when he's
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, that one that one would get you,
That's a tough one.
breathing a little hard. I'm like, that one means I'd be walking.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. He was like, man, I finally cleared the whole thing from the bottom to the top. It's like a year later kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I
You're
cleaned
like,
it.
Dude, if that's the case, you need to fix it. But it looks, everything that he's done up there just looks amazing. I really was just having a conversation the other day with one of our mutual friends, and I feel bad that I didn't get a chance to get up there this summer, but
yeah,
who knows? You know, there's still, apparently you can still do it in the winter, so we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. It's that's the thing. If it, all of a sudden like the temperature is just fine and it's dry, like if it's not raining, like next week it'll be beautiful up there. That I don't know if it is. I haven't looked at the forecast or whatever, but it's like boom, there's moisture in the ground and like it's beautiful. It's just really cold at night. That's kind of the big thing. It's like if you come up, you gotta bring your long underwear for sure.
Yeah.
And now we can have fires because it's like kind of like fire season's over and like that kind of thing.
Right.
So it's kind of a magical time if everything lines up.
Yeah, no, that's like a super fun time, you know, because then I don't know, something about having a fire. It's super fun. So
yeah, it's so cool.
The thing that you mentioned a minute ago about the riding there is like even outside of what you have on Everstoke itself, it is like, honestly, every time I go up in that area and ride, I think to myself, man, you guys just nailed it on the location of where you're at. Like
one of my lights fell over.
It's all right. Don't worry about it. So like, it really is like, I don't think that you could have like really got a better placement. I mean, right there in Grey Eagle where you're at, Mills Peak, in my opinion, is more fun than Downeyville, and you're like super close to Downeyville, so you can real easily, you know, get over there and shuttle, you know, be right at the top of the hill. You can catch a shuttle back up to your car later instead of having to drive all the way down to the bottom. And then on top of that, you have Mount Huff there the other direction. Yeah. And the trails that they're building in the Mount Huff area. I was talking to the guy over at Yuba Expedition. Yuba, is that Yuba? Yeah. They have like a boatload of stuff that's just like on the, you know, within the next couple of years is going to be done.
It's absolutely crazy because like even, and then, you know, there's Huff, there's Mills Peak, and then, you know, Sarah and I did a ride that was it wasn't Mount Elwell, but it was like Jameson Creek, and that's right there too. It's just in that like Lakes Basin Lakes Basin area. There's like 5 really good rides right now. Like drive to Downeyville. It's only an hour to the bottom of Downeyville. Take the shuttle. You could go to the top of Downeyville and like mess around like that, but probably not advised kind of thing. But then they're just building, like you said, there's like 70 or something miles of single track that are approved and like shovel ready. And anytime you check the Sierra Buttes Trail Stewardship Instagram, it's like, oh, we just did this new trail. And then there's this new trail. There's one called Beckworth Peak that we're very interested in because it's like 10 minutes behind, like towards Portola, behind Grey Eagle. And it's like, oh, is this thing open now? Is this awesome? Another awesome ride. And there's Penman Peak, which is right above us. And according to their maps, it looks like they're going to route the trail like right behind Everstoke because it's like the national forest is right there. So there's going to be a lot every year. I think there's just going to be more and more amazing trails and riding. So it's like, it's all on us to like tell that story. Like, hey, we have this place you can come stay and do all these amazing rides. It's awesome.
Yeah, I saw that one that you did with your wife, and it looked really good. And that area is just, it's beautiful back there. I did beautiful. Like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
dude, the drone footage that I have from that ride, it's just like, this is freaking amazing.
So cool. Even that fire road climb, because I think it's the same dirt road like for Elwell and for the one I did, I think, but it's just beautiful. It's like just amazing. I
think you can drive that road that you're talking about. You can drive up because when we did a ride from Downeyville over towards kind of that area that you were in, and somebody was telling me, oh, you could drive up here and then make your way over to Elwell. So you could actually do like a shuttle. I mean, it's still like, first of all, let's be real here. To get to the top of Mount Elwell is going to be a suffer fest like there's no other suffer fest. Doesn't matter if you shuttle or you actually go like but that ride from Elwell down to Gray Eagle was super fun. Like really,
and I still haven't done it. That's like crazy. I still haven't done it. I've seen it. Like I've had it on my list forever. And but yeah, like some of the road stuff, like we saw some like crazy 4-wheel drivers going up like some of the even higher stuff, but I think you could get pretty high up with like a normal vehicle and do a little shuttle. And the dream of the Tesla self-driving shuttle that needs to happen.
Right. Yeah. We parked over there off of that road that goes to Mills Peak, and we climbed up that side, and it was really like,
okay.
It was more hike a bike than it was climb. And that I had some pretty fit guys with me, and we were all like, it was a struggle bus to get up there. But I think there's some other routes. I think there's some other routes that you could actually pedal, like the way that you're saying.
Yeah.
And then I think there's also another one that's like a little different from the way where we went, but close, that you could pedal a little more. But either way, man, there's some definite like amazing riding over there. And I think in Huff, they have a second line that they should have done by next season.
I was reading about that too. Yeah. And I think it might actually be open now, because I thought I read something recently about, because it's like some other thing, but then it kind of like feels like a dead end, but it's not. So I just like looking at Trail Forks all the time. I'm like, oh, wow, okay, they got this thing now.
I think the bottom half is done, but I think the top half they still have to finish.
But
to me, like, I could be wrong. I thought that's what the conversation was, but I really enjoy Huff, but I have a hard time doing it twice in one day. The second time I kind of get bored, because it's just so fast and pretty much straight, not a lot of tech. Totally. But if they have two lines up there, then it would be like,
exactly.
Oh, okay. That's really
it's a game changer. It's funny how like those little things, if you can just change or tweak one little thing, it's like, oh yeah, we do this one first, then we do that. And like, I remember the first time I did, I don't know if it was the first time I did Mills and Huff, but I did it in the same day. And it was just like such a fun day, because it's like, oh wow, Mills Peak, that's so cool. But it was kind of over fast but it's really, really good. And then we drove up and did Mount Huff, and I was like, wow, this is like blowing my mind. So it was like kind of the moment, the way you serve the hors d'oeuvres and the appetizers and the main course are a huge part of how it feels.
Semi Sendy was out, and he was visiting in Downeyville, and I was like, hey man, let's get together and ride. And he had a day to break off with me, and I took him over. We did Huff first and then went to Mills Peak. Yeah. And then we did a couple of laps on Mills, and it was a really good day. It was really fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. And it's, we were hoping to be able to make it over to Everstoke the same day, but by the time we got done with Mills, we like ran out of light. It was like, okay, well, I guess that's it.
Lock it up.
Yeah. So your channel has changed a lot over the years. I'm initially like, you were doing all this like local stuff until you had, the money to really start traveling. And then it was kind of real international, and then a lot of van stuff. Where do you see, 2023? How's that going to shake out?
Oh man, I'm finally going to try to travel again now that things are calmed down with the old vid and everything. But yeah, I really think it's kind of the same formula forever. It's just ride the best trails in the world, go find the best stuff. And when I was landlocked to the USA for the past couple of years, I made it work. And now I've got my eyes on quite a few different international trips, and I'm still like, oh God, is it actually going to happen? Or is something going to get canceled, or something going to happen? Which I never had that reservation at all before, of like, what if I got hurt? Oh, what if I did this? It's like, nope, it's fine. It's all going to work.
Yeah. So, you've done a bunch of trips for your subscribers in the past as well.
Yeah.
And, I've always seen, some of the ones that are like Moab or things of that nature. I'm always like, man, I guess for me, because I'm close enough that I could drive, I look at it, I'm like, man, $2,500 to go. Like, I could just drive there myself and use Trail Forks or whatever. And with that being said, though, you posted a Peru trip the other day that I was like, oh my God, this is worth every freaking penny. Like,
totally.
Like, so is that something you've done before, or
no? So it's Wandering Wheels, who's Matt Yackey from Revelstoke, and I took his Revelstoke trip, years ago, and that was so cool. And he went down last year, scouted it out, and he was like, okay, this is good enough to actually turn into a trip. And however, I think he just, finds good local guides and then finds hotels. It's like quite a logistical nightmare of like what you would have to do if you wanted to do it yourself. And he takes, probably goes down there for a month and vets trails and vets people and vets hotels and then puts it all together. And then it's like, boom, okay, we got the package deal. Just got to get yourself and your bike down to Cusco and that's it. So it's pretty dang good.
And I'm 100% not, I wasn't trying to like say that, the Moab trip is not worth the money. I was just trying to say, like, for me personally, you know what I mean?
I get that for sure, because it's like, there's always that approach of like, oh, what the heck? I could just go park in front of a Walmart and stay for free. Like there's like always levels and strata of that versus like, well, we're actually staying at like really nice hotels and getting meals all day, every day. And you meet all these different people and you get to hang out. But it's like, of course, there's definitely, everyone has a tolerance for like, what? I wouldn't pay $5 for that. But it's like, oh, I pay 5,000 for that kind of thing.
Right.
That's just always the moving stick for sure. I did not take offense at all.
Okay, great. I'm glad. When is the Peru trip? Are you all booked up?
January 9th, I believe, is when it starts. And I think there's still spots. He said like, we only need like 4 people to go to make it worth his while. So it's like, I think we're on for sure, but like I think it could probably go up to maybe 12 people or something. So
how much was it?
Check it out. I'd have to look, because it's,
I wouldn't, if I remember though.
Yeah, exactly. And the Canadian and US is like kind of off. It's either parity or like way higher. So it's like, it might be 3,000 Canadian, which means $2,500 US or something like that. But I remember
always
fluid.
In my head, it was like 2,500 to $3,000, something like
reasonable.
That.
Of like, okay, 12 days. Yeah, exactly. And like, I think it's 9th through the 20th. So yeah, maybe like 8 days of riding with 10 days of the trip and like 1 rest day and all that, all that stuff. Check out the links like, somewhere.
That's legitimate. I mean, that's a really good price. I mean, if you go on Expedia and try to find like a vacation for a week, pretty much anywhere, you're probably going to be around that price. You know what I mean? Like if you're staying in a hotel, and let's just call it all inclusive because your meals are included with that, and you know what I mean? Like
definitely. And it's just, that is the benefit. Like there's not many deals left in this world, I would say, but like going to Spain and like going to South American countries, like there's still deals to be had some way, somehow.
Yeah. That's definitely one that, man, I'm still trying to debate whether or not I pull the trigger on it. I'm glad to hear that there's still some spots.
I think there still are some spots.
Shouldn't have talked about it on the podcast. But no, definitely any of you guys that are listening that are interested, I mean, honestly, just swing by. Is it on your site?
Like my YouTube community page is probably the best place to like find it. I bet even if you Google BKXC Peru or just like Wandering Wheels Peru, like it'll come up. But yeah, it's a little more tough to find because I didn't do like any official like posts.
Right. But the images alone, you're like, oh my God. Like,
and
you look at that picture and you can picture yourself like, man, that'd be
exactly.
me.
The trail. And we're going to do like the Inca Avalanche Trail, which is like one of those like, Mountain of Death type races where they start everyone up super high. And like, I just saw Killian Braun posted a YouTube video of like the Inca Avalanche, but it's just a trail, but it's just like a super long trail that like, traverses through different stuff. So I think we're going to do that. And if you look at the itinerary, you can like Google and Trail Forks almost every day and see in Trail Forks that it's like, oh my God, we're going to do this 3,000 foot descent and then this one and then this one. So it's going to be very good.
Yeah. No, it sounds amazing. It just, man, it's just, oh God, I'm really, really excited to see some video from it, at least if I don't get the chance to make it happen. But that just looks wild. So with that, I guess, in mind, we can talk about international travel with your bike. And I did a trip to Jamaica this summer and rode down there. And I definitely got a taste of what Brian goes through with visiting these different countries.
Oh man.
To one of my problems that I ran into was while I was tightening my stem, I snapped one of the bolts.
Oh man.
And there is not a bike shop on Jamaica at all. Like, so
Totally.
the situation was either don't do this ride or ride it with 3 bolts, and fortunately it wasn't something else. Have you run into something like that where it like almost just ruined your trip?
I'm trying to think. So like that's what's like good about doing the guided trips, where it's like you have a guide, they've experienced 1,000 things and they have some extra parts. And now it's like at least SRAM Eagle is pretty standardized, where almost everybody has Eagle, where back some of my first trips, like it was all still hodgepodge. So now it's like there's enough crazy people on these trips that actually bring a spare everything. So you're like, hey man, can I use your extra this, or the guides will have extra this or extra that. So like that works good. But oh man, it's so demoralizing to be like, oh God, I'm here and there's nothing available. What the hell am I going to do? When I was in Australia and I had my bike on the back of this dinky ass bike rack and it fell over and it drug the handlebars, and at least we were able to get to a bike shop and get new handlebars, get new grips and stuff. But if that happens anywhere else, you're just like, oh, we're screwed.
So our shuttle vehicle in Jamaica was a taxi cab. What kind of interesting situations have you found yourself like that?
Yeah, nothing too. I'm trying to think of like different trucks and different random stuff like that. But it'd be fun to like put it on a donkey and go ride a donkey back to the top.
Yeah, that would be quite the epic adventure there, right?
Oh man,
what was Australia like?
That was pretty good. It was pretty cool. Tasmania is somewhere I want to get back to. I'd love to get back to. And within the next few months, because that's summer there now, and they've built so much more, and it's like become like a full-on recognized like worldwide tourism mountain biking destination. The Blue Derby area, and then a bunch of other places in Tasmania like kind of caught on and be like, oh wow, this is actually working. Let's build these trails and stuff. So, but Australia was cool. It like actually saw kangaroos like on the trail. Like they're just supposed to be like the dumbest animals, much like deer, where they just don't know to move, or like it's just kind of, and they're like almost as big as deer, but they're standing up on their 2 feet. So it's very bizarre to see them in real life and be like, oh, it's just a deer, but it just kind of hops around.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things where it just seems so like abstract to an American to see. Like it's basically like a huge bunny rabbit, right? You know what I mean? Like a man-sized bunny rabbit.
Just eats grass. It's like these things get giant muscles from just eating grass like horses.
When they like box too, like they'll
go back up on their tail, like they go on their tail and then they hit their back feet and they'll like slash your stomach open or something. Like not good.
I don't know if it was you I told this story to before, but my mom had some friend that they were there on some kind of trip. They had like this Jeep that they rented, and they ran into one out in the outback, and they like knocked it out, and they were all drinking. And they put their jacket on him because they thought it would be funny, and they were like taking pictures of this kangaroo with the jacket on, and because they thought it was dead. And the thing woke up and ran away. And the jacket had the keys to the Jeep in it.
Oh, no, that's too much. That's
they learned
too much
there. So,
oi, the Roo just went off with the keys.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So there you go. Don't dress the kangaroos if you run into one. That's the moral of the story. Oh man.
Or at least make sure it's dead.
Yeah, right. Your wife finished college, so she back out in California with you now?
Yeah. She just got a job with NICA, which is very cool. The National Interscholastic Cycling Association. So like basically high school mountain biking, and she's doing grant manager, and she's like getting grants from all over the country to try to fund NICA and fund these programs for kids to get on mountain bikes. And it's high school and middle school. It's kind of increasing its reach every year, more kids, more races and that kind of stuff. And it's basically what she wanted to do from before she went back to school. Like when she quit her job in consulting and was like, okay, I want to go back to school, get a master's in nonprofit management thing, and then hopefully end up with NICA. And she made it work. She made it all come true. It's very cool.
That's awesome, man. It's really cool when you have a goal and you get to like see it come to fruition.
Yeah, yeah, and there's always ups and downs in between where it's like, oh, it didn't work out. Oh, it's not going to happen. Then all of a sudden it kind of comes back and it did happen. And it's like that the whole journey along the way. And then you look back, you feel like, oh, it was so hard, and then it's just a blink of an eye of just, oh, it's done. Moving on to the next thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you can attest to that.
Yeah.
With your journey. Would you have thought, 6 years from posting on MTBR that you'd be sitting where you're at right now?
Yeah, I think that was kind of the cool thing of knowing that when I first started doing the videos that people actually were watching them and they would get 1,000 views or 2,000 views, which even now is quite a bit of like, okay, there's something there between, 50 views and 200 views and like 2,000. It's like, okay, there's something there where that's enough for people to share it and to see it and to know that something's going on. So just having that momentum where it like actually, oh, now the videos are getting 10,000 views. Oh, now they're getting 20,000 views. Like there was definitely something there where it was like, okay, I can't imagine it because I'm putting in the work and because it's actually working, that it's like everything else is like, okay, that's going to work.
Mm-hmm. How do you keep yourself from burning out? Because like with YouTube, it's definitely, it's an engine that'll like, it'll take all your gas. You know what I mean? If you let it.
Totally. Yeah. It's funny because I've always heard, like, I remember hearing that the definition of burnout is like, you're putting in this effort, but your reward is less. So it's like, over this whole journey, I put in a ton of effort, but the reward has always been pretty good. Like I've always been able to get more out of it than I put in, I think. And that has been so fantastic until earlier this year where I had a whole string of videos that just performed terribly. And it was like, oh God, what the hell's going on? What is this even going to work anymore? Like what, because it doesn't matter. 500,000 subscribers. It's great. Like that and $8 will get you a Starbucks coffee. Like it just doesn't put food on the table of the actual putting the videos out and getting views and getting people interested is like the whole thing. So like I had like a crazy streak of like, 25,000 views, which is just like terrible, like income terrible. And then I'm sure if I look back at those videos, they're probably all over 50,000 views now or whatever. But it's like just total existential crisis of like, is what I'm doing working or is this not working? What am I doing? I'm just doing the same thing I've always done and it always worked and now it's not. So that's when kind of the first crisis I ever had with my channel was this year, basically, of like, oh God, is this gonna even work out?
So I think a part of being a good creator is being honest with yourself. What do you think the reason was that they weren't performing?
I mean, it's always about the videos being good or not. And that's just always it, the thumbnail and the title. But it's like, I still go back to some of those videos and they're good in my eyes. Like I don't see the difference. And we all want to blame the YouTube algorithm, the big bad, like it was all the YouTube algorithm, but it's funny when you make like 2 videos a week or 3 videos a week or 5 videos a week, it becomes a little more disposable versus what's going to happen. What's the next story? And like the 50 state shred was kind of the perfect year-long storyline. Is he going to do it? What's the next state that he's going to do? And like, that just gets that momentum and that energy up so much of like, oh, what's going to happen kind of thing versus like, oh yeah, he just posted this video. I see the thumbnail. But then like you watch the video and all this crazy interesting stuff happens that moves the story along, but like you didn't realize that from the thumbnail. It just felt like another another BKXC video.
So you feel like it's better to have like a theme for your
if you
like where your channel is going.
Totally. In the big scheme of things, I think if you only did like, it's very arbitrary to do 2 videos a week or 1 video a week or whatever. Like if I had the balls, it would basically be like, I would do, everything would be like a series or like everything would have like a build up of like, oh, okay, this is like me and Alex doing the redemption, like road trip. And just all 6 of those videos would come out one day after another. And that would be that big spurt of like 6 days in a row. And like, oh, the fever and the, like all the anticipation would lead up to that series. And then boom, you go away for a couple months or something, just like television. They put out their episodes and they go away for a little while,
Yeah.
and then they put out their episodes and they go away for a little while, where we've kind of just created this world for ourselves where it's like, oh, no, we do once a week, twice a week, whatever it is, and just keep on the treadmill versus like kind of coming up with a concept and doing it the best you can. And then boom, like kind of, this is actually really matters. This is really explosive and awesome.
Do you think you could see yourself getting there where your like release schedule becomes once every 3 months, but every 3 months they get 10 videos of some like epic thing?
It would be pretty cool. It would be pretty cool to do something like that. But like, it just, you would basically go without in those videos, you know, those months before. And it's like, is that actually worth it to like spend 3 months with very little income? And then does that make up for it? And it's kind of the balance of power. Like I did my Oak Ridge series. I put all the videos in one video and did like a 90-minute video. And I don't know what the videos at view wise, but like basically, if at a bare minimum, I had 4 videos that probably would have got 40,000 views each. So until that video hits 160,000 views, it like hasn't done anything basically, like in the math of things. But longer videos always do better. Like if you look at any of the videos on my channel that are over an hour, I think they all have 100,000 views. So YouTube just loves throwing long videos at people. And so I'll experiment like, okay, let's smash these all together and kind of see what happens. And if people actually continue to watch a long video all the way through, it does reward you with the ads and stuff. But it's such a funny game.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a gamble to like do what you're saying. Like you would have to, like you're banking that these, let's just say that situation I just said, those 10 videos are just gonna like kill it. You know, and if they don't, you just like set yourself back 3 months, you know, like,
totally, because
like,
it's always a promise. You're
know,
making this promise to people of like, oh, this is going to be good, and if the promise doesn't fulfill, it's like, you lose them. And I think we all have YouTubers that we watched, and kind of you fade away. You're like, I'm not really interested with Casey Neistat's doing anymore. He is doing videos again. Like I like that guy. Like he meant so much to me, but I'm not in the mood to like hop in and kind of see what's the story now and like what like it just doesn't tickle you as much as my DIY shower remodel videos do now. I'm like, oh wow, this is awesome. I can't wait to see what happens next. It's a fickle world. That's the whole thing about TV and entertainment. It's a fickle world. These shows, has my show lasted longer than Seinfeld now? You know, it's like nothing should last that long. Stuff comes and goes. You get canceled, you get fired, and entertainment's just so weird that way.
I've noticed with like Alex, for example. I really like Alex. I've always enjoyed his videos, but he's definitely gone through a period of time where he has been very sporadic in his creating. And I noticed that even when he starts ramping back up, that it takes me a while to actually start clicking on his videos again. Even if that first one is a good one, let's just say. It might be like 3 videos until I'm like intrigued.
Okay, I'll get back invested into this and like, okay, are we actually in it again? There's definitely some psychology with that for sure. Of like, you're not going to pull the rug out from under me again, are you? Like, I want it. Like, we're in this together, kind of thing.
I don't even know if it's like fear of the rug being pulled out. I feel like what it is that the one thing that you can definitely say about somebody being consistent on their releasing stuff is that you feel this like kinship with them, this like you're going through these things with them and you're following them. And as with anything, like if it's out of sight for a while, you start losing that feeling. You know, it's like when you don't see a good friend, like say you do a road trip with a buddy, right? And when you get back, you're still texting each other like every hour, 2 days, or every day, and then it goes to like 2 weeks, and then it's like back to like, hey, every 6 months, hey, what's up, dude? You know, but and I feel like it's kind of that situation where that is the plus side to the continual release, is that you keep people engaged in basically like, because YouTube is your story, right? It's like your whole story of your life, you know, or whatever it is that you're doing, and I don't feel like we have the same ability to be able to like Netflix it and release like 12 episodes and see you next year. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Unless, I think you could pull it off, but I think you're right. And then even more so that like, if if someone's like struggling or going through something, you want to know even more. Like you're more intrigued of like what's happening, like where, like, and you want to hear the story. And like we're living our lives on this platform to like, hey, here's my dirty laundry kind of thing. So it even like hinders it even more of like, wait, you've been gone, but now what's going on kind of thing of like, okay, everything's normal. Okay, that's good too. But there's so many angles of like the live by the sword, die by the sword of YouTube.
Do you feel like your videos get redundant to you in like your editing process and like, hey, I'm doing this same video, I'm just in a different location. Like, how do you make it feel different to you?
It's funny because that is like kind of the magic of sometimes a longer video editing is like, oh my God, I got to take a break. But if it's good, I'm so lucky that if it's a great ride while I'm riding, it's novelty, it's fun, like that brings out the great energy. And then when I'm editing it, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm remembering that. So I think whatever it is for me to actually not get burned out on that whole process is fantastic because I just know it's like, oh wow, this is good. This is like, this scenery is awesome. This thing when I crashed or this happened, that I can kind of not be like, oh, I don't want to touch this ever again. Like, give me a break. Like I couldn't edit for another second. There's actually some good creative energy and juices on doing the rides and then actually editing the video where it's not like a big pain in the butt, like where it's like, oh. So I'm very lucky in that sense where it's like, they always feel different. They always feel like it's a new adventure. And it's like, I'm always happy. Like, this is good.
In your creative process, do you try to go on your trip and then immediately edit, or do you come back to that footage like 3 months later?
The best thing you can possibly do is edit it immediately because I just did a road trip with Alexander. And so I've got like these videos and I've got 2 of them edited and then one that I've kind of forgotten about. It's like, oh God, I need to get back in and edit this video. Cause I think the longer you go away from it, the more it becomes like homework and the more it becomes like a thing hanging over your head. So the quickest I've ever edited is like that night, which is unheard of, where it's like, how did I edit this whole video the night after I rode because I had to, or something like that, where it just goes so much quicker and better when the sooner you get to it.
I feel like creatively, I truly, truly prefer to do it as soon as I can afterwards. And like you said a minute ago, whenever I have a bunch of stuff sitting in the tank, it really sucks the freaking wind out of my tail. Like I like
you're
right
like
now
playing a video game or going trick-or-treating with your kids and it's just you're thinking about it in the back of your head like, oh God,
like right now I have a handful of videos. It just didn't work out for me to edit as much as I wanted to this summer. So I have a lot of like really, really fun rides to edit through. But you know, after it's been a couple months, you almost have to watch the whole thing again just to figure out like, you don't really remember like, oh, I don't remember that funny comment that I made running down this hill, or I don't remember, you know what I mean? You try to like skim through it, but sometimes you miss things or, so, and then also it's just more exciting when you're like, you remember it all and you're like,
definitely
it's this with Alex or whatever, you know?
Yeah. There's some synergy there for sure that makes it way easier and way more engaging and like, boom, I got this done. Awesome. On to the next one.
Yeah. It's definitely, do you have some advice for people that are maybe considering to start a channel, like how they should creatively kind of set themselves up?
Man, if you have good ideas and entertaining ideas and you can tell entertaining stories, then definitely start a channel, do it, entertain people. There's still plenty of room out there for different types of storytelling and different types of adventures, and making people feel something is always what it's about, whether it's like educating or entertaining or scaring or whatever it is. There's definitely so much room out there, but you have to be self-aware enough to be like, okay, is this good? I don't know. Put it out there and see if it's good or not.
That's the hardest part. I mean, even what you said earlier when you were talking about your videos that didn't do too well. And I mean, I think all of us as creators, it's really hard to like cynically look at your own creation and be like, no, this sucks. You know, like,
because you have to have that level of like narcissism just enough that is like, I can do this, I've got this, versus, oh, this is the best thing ever. People are going to love this. And you're totally, completely unself-aware of like, no, it's not that great. But you have to have like a little bit to be like, yeah, okay, this is good. Instead of like, oh, this sucks. No one's ever going to watch this, which you have to be in like the weird sweet spot. Well, even if you're not in the weird sweet spot, you just keep putting stuff out forever and it'll be out there and you'll have videos and stuff. Or you're lower below that, and then you never do any videos when you could have actually done something and had some cool stuff out there.
Yeah. It's, I mean, I think it was Boostmaster that said on one of his videos when I was first thinking about starting a channel, where he was like, the number one thing is just start, like actually just start,
because you can research all the cameras and you can spend all the money and then just have all the gear and just nothing ever happens, versus, okay, getting my phone out, doing it, talking, putting the camera out, having an idea, a thumbnail, a title first, and then okay, how can I build a story around this?
Learning how to edit is really difficult, but I think one of the things that's really hard for people, is like harder than editing, is getting comfortable with the camera.
Oh yeah, and your own voice and like talking to the camera and like all that stuff. Definitely, it takes 100 times of, like, not just 100 times doing it, but 100 times like having stake. Like, this is going out there. People are going to see this. Like, I don't know if you can really just talk to your camera in your bedroom and it makes you, maybe it would make you better. But like, I had all those videos of my audiobook reviews, and I had the Wi-Fi garden of my other channel, like where I did maybe 25 other videos where I was talking to the camera. And I remember the first couple of times just being petrified, like looking into the lens and just feeling that like kind of public speaking thing, where now it's like, people see it. Yeah, a bunch of people are going to see this. I hope I don't have any boogers in my nose, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, the one that is like, and I mean, you know me, I'm not a person that's very shy, but definitely there's still moments like walking through an airport with a camera in front of you talking to it. Like
brutal,
you're like,
brutal.
Somebody's looking at me like I'm a freaking idiot right now.
It's so tough. And when you get those shots, they actually do end up looking kind of cool. But like even today, it's like my life depends on doing that stuff. And I'm still like, let me hide in my van and do my talking thing. So in a world where shame has completely evaporated, I still have it.
Yeah. One of the people in the comments here, Steve Y, actually good buddy, and first guy that ever went on a ride with me from a subscriber. He says every time I hear my own voice on video, a small piece of me dies.
Man, I remember being a kid recording like something for the first time and then playing it back and be like, there's no bass, and I hear bass in my voice. There's nothing. It doesn't exist. Hey guys.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things, though, that like I've heard a lot of YouTubers say when they're starting that they really don't like the sound of their own voice. I think Aaron was one, like even when he first started, because he didn't talk in his videos at all initially.
Yeah.
Funny side story for those of you that weren't there, Brian was at the biker camp that I had up in Downeyville, and we were standing there. We were doing the Jeopardy show. And we're talking about some other YouTubers, and I start talking about this guy. I'm like, yeah, I watch this dude's videos and he rides really interesting places, but he doesn't really like talk at all. And I'm like going on and on about it. And this dude that's sitting in this chair over next to this tree, like kind of raises his hand up and he's like, I think you're talking about me. that was Aaron. That was how I met Aaron for the first time.
Classic.
Good
memories, man. That biker camp was awesome.
Yeah, I really wanted to see the lure get their stuff together in a way that I could use that property. And unfortunately, it just hasn't seemed to pan out that well. And I would love to have, if somebody listening knows somebody that's right there in the downtown-ish Downeyville area that has a property big enough that you can put a bunch of tents on, I'd love to do that at a bigger scale. It's just like, I don't know how to take it from where it was to like that next level. I really like, have you ever been up there when the clampers are there?
Oh, like ECV or whatever. Yeah. No.
Like I've been up there before, like trying to go ride, and they were in town, and it's like, they take that whole
taking
town
it over.
Yeah, but it's just like they're camping all over the place. They're like camping in the back parking lot. They're like,
but
somehow they've organized that to work.
And it works.
If I could do that with the mountain bike community, I feel like it would be like, man, that would just be so rad.
Cool. Yeah.
But I don't know, even like something in your area though is, you know, I said this to a few people, man, I wish you guys had like a football field, a flat, like open area that we could just be like, all right, we're doing
3 flat spots.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if, you know, if they like that, there's that park over there by the pond. Do they like rent that out?
Yeah, I wonder. That's a good question of like events, because there's definitely a couple big open grassy areas that are like, like the farmers market and that kind of stuff. Yeah,
because that area that you're in, man, it's just honestly, it's so good.
Fantastic. Yeah, there's got to be some random place like in Portola or Graygle or Blair, like somewhere that's like, it's just like a horse meadow or something, and there's bathrooms and like, boom, put your
because I did that there's I can't, it's like High Sierra something event that they do. It's like kind of close to your area, but a little bit farther away than from Graygle. And when I did that, that was the first time I was in that area and was like really put it together in my mind, like, oh, Downeyville and Mills and Hoof are all so close.
All here.
But that place I felt like was just a little bit too far out where it wouldn't work. We're like, honestly, I've said it a bunch of times already on this podcast. Like Graygle is like, it's the best spot. Like it's really puts you
central.
Right there.
Yeah. Instead of driving 30 minutes and then you're there, like you're there already to get to 2 or 3 amazing rides and then drive an hour one way and an hour the other way. Then you got the other 2 great rides. So
and it's not hard
very
to get
much
there either.
No,
you know,
exactly.
Like, like coming from
Dead
Truckee,
simple.
like the drive is pretty decent. It's not like driving up 49 to get to Downeyville. It's some work. You know what I mean? It's like super twisty and not very
and somebody's on your butt and you got to pull over, or like you're behind somebody that's like, come on, pull over. Like that whole thing where it will wear you out a little bit.
Yeah, but that in between the Mills and Truckee is really it's a pretty decent drive. Yeah. So maybe I should look into that area, and maybe I should start planning for 2023 right now. Reach
something
out to
somewhere.
Are you guys becoming
there's actually like there's this place that's like, I don't know when the last time you've come in there, but like I think it's called like the White Springs Motel or Sulphur Springs Motel, where it's like it's a community thing that they just revamped this like big old building, and now I think there's pools and stuff like that. Kind of gave me a little tickle of like when you're first coming into Graygle, that there's this, maybe even be able to rent it as a open space and maybe like premium hotel rooms or something like that. I just
coming
can't
in from
remember if it's like White
side
Springs.
or like...
exactly. When you're coming in from the Truckee side, coming in south of Graygle, it's a little bit it's either Sulphur Springs or White Springs or something, and it's closer to Graygle. It's not like down by Sierraville or those other places.
No, I'll have to look into it because I consistently have people asking me about the biker camp thing again, and I think I was on to something. You know what I mean? I just need to figure out how to take it to a higher level than where it was before.
Of course.
It's just
it's like it's capturing that magic. It's huge to capture the magic, and like all of a sudden people like have great memories and all that stuff. It's it's huge. I just sent the little link over. I think that's what it is. White Sulphur Springs Ranch. And I don't know if it's actually something that's open to the public.
Those guys from MTB NorCal, they really put together, they started doing that event up in Nevada City. And it's one of those things where I'm like, man, I watch them do it and I'm like, this is all it takes. You have to put it out there. You have to you just have to take that risk, you know? And it's kind of like we were talking about the 3-month video thing. Like it's money. It's not like when you do an event like that, you have to like financially float some part of this dream and hope that you're going to make it. You know what I mean? Totally. So that's the part that's scary. You know, it's really scary.
But it's so cool because that's like there's things that we're all good at, and there's some things that fire us up. Like that's your thing, is like these events and getting people together and like just digging down and getting deeper. And like that's my thing. That's what I should be spending my time on. And like finding that is so relevant of like, okay, here we go. I can actually make this work.
Yeah. It's definitely I really enjoy this community and this industry, and I'm I'm I I want to know or figure out exactly where my spot is. You know what I mean? I'm not
Yeah,
sure
exactly.
100% what it is. You know what I mean? But I think some of it is that, probably like you're a creative person or a dreamer. And because of that, there's always like all these ideas,
Yeah.
and it's like, which
Yes.
one do you want to pull the trigger on,
Totally. Totally.
Yeah.
And then like when you get further down the road, you're like, oh, is this going to work? Is this actually going to be something? That's why YouTube is just such a good low barrier to entry thing versus like Everstoke is like, okay, this down payment and this monthly payment. And oh
Yeah.
my God, it's like, oh, I see why most businesses fail within a couple years.
Right. Where, do you think that the Everstoke, like, where is like your final dream with that place? Like, how do you see it running?
For me personally, like, and of course it's 50-50 with Aaron and stuff, like what he wants. But for me personally, like building just a big ass 10-bedroom mansion, basically. And like each
Mhm.
one of those rooms could be individually rented out kind of thing,
Mhm.
or someone decides to rent the whole thing out for like a week at a time. And that's
Uh-huh.
like, boom, you've got this giant house for a week and the run of the place. Like you have all
Mhm.
the trails, it's all private. Go find yourself your own shuttles and all that stuff of just
Mhm.
that, just the lodging. I don't really imagine like running a shuttle and doing food and all the other extravagancies kind of thing of just
Mhm.
like, hey, show up and have a ball at this house and you'll have access to all these amazing trails. And,
Yeah.
somehow finding a way where that house could like kind of be its own, like if 10 different people showed up, they could all have their own entrances and bathrooms and stuff. Or
Oh,
if
yeah.
everybody wanted to like party all together, that would be it. So that would be
Yeah.
my little dream.
So the idea would be right now, let's just say you start out with these 10 tiny homes and you build the equity from that to get yourself to the place to like, okay, now it's the mansion.
Yeah, it would be kind of weird to like knock them all down and be like, okay, let's clean the slate, like something that's totally working and people really
Right.
like, it's like, if that works, it works. That'd be totally fine by me.
Yeah. Maybe you just build the big house on the top of the hill. Right.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, that's definitely, it's interesting. Do you see yourself getting into some other kind of property, or is like this one going to keep you busy for quite a while?
Yeah, I don't know. That's the thing. If we can actually get it going and kind of be like, okay, we're level or like slightly making a couple bucks, then it's like, okay, this could work kind of thing. And I would love to
Mhm.
get to that place. And that could be cool to get into another one and build Everstokes all over.
Yeah. Would you pick another place like altogether, like in the US, or would you probably still stay in like Northern California for your second home?
Yeah. Oh man, that's a good question. Cause it's like it's all in when at least it's only 3.5 hours from me. So it's like being able to
Yeah.
drive up there and get things done. And then it's like, oh man, okay, now what about over here? What about over there? That's a lot more logistical nightmare when it's like, oh, it's in
Yeah.
St. George, Utah. There's 5 great rides there, but it's
Right.
12
It's St.
hours away,
George.
14 hours away.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, as it is right now, I mean, Aaron can drive up for the weekend and hang out and whatever and
Totally.
work a couple days or whatever. And yeah, it definitely makes it a lot easier. But I mean, on the other end, I guess like kind of like what Seth is doing. I mean, he's got the house. I think he's
Yeah.
working on something else similar. But like yeah, I mean, you build a couple of those, and next thing you know, boom, you got something, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Very much of just if people think that it's a good deal and they get their vacation and all that stuff, and I think it's a money-making venture. If you can get to
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah, I think the idea of the Airbnb that's really catered to riders in a riding area is it's a great idea. I I think that the downside is trying to do it in California where like real estate's just so expensive.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah.
to buy I don't know, let's just say a 1,500 square foot house in Nashville doesn't quite look like a 1,500 square foot house in Northern California.
Totally.
So
Totally.
like the amount of
It's
money that you
always
have
that
to make
that
from it.
imbalance. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. Where what else do you have like bouncing around inside of your head about, where you want to go with the Brian Kennedy BKXC industry of power,
The empire,
the empire?
Yeah, man, I think Trail One and Everstoke, that's enough doing Trail One, Everstoke, and BKXC. Like it's definitely been very like, oh God, I don't have 5 minutes to give to this and 3 minutes to give to this. And like, then I have a wife and I have this and I have other things. Like it's very much taxing to have all that stuff juggling all the time. And it's quite enough.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, I mean, and I think that, the big one that you mentioned there is you have a wife now. So congratulations. I think we talked since then, but still,
I think so.
I'm really happy for you guys. But that definitely changes things. Like you have to, like that has to be worked on constantly, and you can't just be like, yeah, I'm going to go do whatever the hell I want to do for the next 6 months. I'll see you then, because like things don't work out, So, I mean, you guys had to navigate this long distance relationship for a while and I'm sure that was tough, but like, how do you now, like continue to make sure that that's a priority and address all these other things at the same time,
Totally. It's tough for sure. And just going away, like I was away in Colorado for like a month or 3 weeks or whatever. And it was just like, that was too long. It was too far away. But it's like, she does have a job. So it's like, hey, you got your job. If I had a job and like, I had to like kind of be stuck to the desk or whatever, it is what it is. And I've still got to figure out a way to like get these videos out and all that stuff. So it's definitely like figuring out that good balance. And we're done so good. It's really just so awesome. She's such a great gal that we figure everything out, and we're very open in our communication of like, hey, I didn't like this, or hey, what about this? That it's nice to know that there's not like this bubbling resentment under the surface that all of a sudden will come out in 2 years and like, you told me that this is going to be this. It's like, I thought we talked about everything.
Right. Communication's key, man. That's like probably the biggest thing.
It's everything. Yeah, it is. Like you hear, it's such a cliche for sure, because sometimes it is very like, oh, I don't know if I want to say this, but I have to say this. Like you just have to, and just get it out there. And then it's not as big a deal as you thought it was going to be. And you can just be like, oh, okay. We got that going. We can work on it. We can actually attack it.
Right. So I'm sure I have to ask this question, because otherwise somebody's gonna be like, what the hell? Are you guys super career focused right now, or is there a possibility of family come in, or what do you think?
Oh man, like we think about the kids. We definitely think about the kids a lot, but it's kind of nice. I think about my nieces, of how they're like 3 and about to turn 2, I think, or 3 and 2, something like that. Where like the older they get, the more they're going to be able to hang out and like babysit for our kids. So we could go 5 years or something and be like, okay, sweet. Now Riley come over, and my 8-year-old niece could come over and babysit. Okay, she needs to be fed twice every hour, and I'm in second grade.
You got to lock in the family daycare first.
Totally.
And then it's on the menu. Got it.
Yeah. Cause I always think about like my parents were 25 when they had me. So I was like 15 years old when I was this age, and like, cause I'm 40 now. And I always thought about that. I would think about like my parents got married when they were 20. So I should be 5 years older if they had me when they first, but it's like, I don't want to be 5 years older now. Like, like, but so I've always had that like stupid clock in my head and stuff, but it just doesn't matter as much. And I think I'll be young enough and spry enough, and Sarah's young enough and stuff where it's easy to get caught up and all that stuff, but we'll get there eventually.
I'll tell you, as a guy, I mean, I had my children young on purpose. I really wanted to be like where I'm at right now. I'm like 45 and I don't have kids anymore at the house. They're grown up. And but I think in my mind it was like, oh, I'll give up some freedom in my younger years to be able to like be at the peak of my career and then be empty nested and be able to like travel or do whatever. And, now that I'm here, I don't really think it matters. I think you can do it whenever. Like honestly, like have kids young, have kids old, just do whatever makes you happy.
That mindset. It's such a mindset.
Yeah.
I know people that have like had kids and hated it and hated every second of it. And like their kid like 3 years old and they're like, oh, the light is at the end of the tunnel. And then like the wife got pregnant again and he was like, oh, it's over. We have to start this whole thing again. And then, it's like there's just, if you have that mindset, it's always going to be awful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because like, in my younger years, having children young, I anticipated being here and not having kids. And now that I'm here, I'm like, if we had another kid right now, whatever, it'd be cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I know how to navigate it now. I'm like, it's not a big deal. Like really.
Yeah.
So yeah, do what's right for you guys. That's what matters.
Yeah,
most,
exactly. Exactly.
So I have this like forever, how do I say this? I'm always wanting to build a van. What kind of advice can you give me about building a van? You
don't get a Ram ProMaster. Number one. I went to my van was in the shop again, and I picked it up today, and it was another $2,000 to fix some melted wire that was on the O2 sensor, and I had the guy print out every single thing that I've had done at that dealership, and I think all the big repairs were at that dealership, and I totaled $20,000 of repairs on the van, and the van was like $35,000 MSRP or whatever. So it's like, what a joke. What a complete joke. I could have spent an extra $20,000 on a Mercedes. Maybe all of that would have happened. I just hate internal combustion engines and the whole oil and the thermostat and the fan belts. And it's just a walking nightmare of the whole thing. That's my advice for your van.
Yeah. It would be nice to see like a solid EV, like
definitely. And
like
it's possible. It just has to be mega batteries, and then maybe you would have to build it out a little more light. But just being able to stand up inside and change clothes is like the whole reason I'm clinging to my van, because and even if I sell the van, what if I have to buy another car? The next car is going to be $50,000, of course, because everything is just like sky high. So it's just it's brutal.
How many miles do you have on the van?
87,000. The engine blew up at 76,000.
Yeah, so that's like that. I mean, I had to replace the engine in my truck, but that had almost 170 on it whenever I did it.
Yeah.
So like
that
you feel like
reasonable.
Yeah, but still it sucks. But yeah, man, that's rough, man. $20,000 on top of it.
Just evaporating, just like cash. That like when you think about, I want to save money and I'm going to cancel my Netflix. I've saved $120 a year by canceling my Netflix and spent $20,000 on a van. That's just money that's evaporated. Like, God, who cares? Like,
so traveling around,
skip that Starbucks. You gotta skip the Starbucks and save that $8.
Right.
Sorry.
No, it's totally okay, man. So traveling around with the wife, do you still feel like the size that you have is like manageable, or do you wish that you had a bigger one? Or
it gets a little cramped, like with different stuff. If we were out for a little longer, we still do good because you can like put suitcases and like pile the suitcases up on the bed, and then when we're sleeping, we move the suitcases to the front of the car or something. But I'm still very stoked on having the shorter length and then being able to full top stand up and sleep in the back, and definitely. The form factor is really, really good. Like we've done so good of just bombing across the country, park at a rest stop, sleep, and stay at an Airbnb for a couple weeks and then go. It's just such a perfect adventure vehicle.
Yeah, I definitely that's the one thing where I always keep questioning myself. Is the little extra space better? But in my mind, I feel like the maneuverability of the smaller wheelbase just seems like a better solution.
Totally. I know. And then there's so much of doing the math of like, okay, is this like, even if you got like a decent daily driver car versus taking that daily driver car to Bentonville and getting an Airbnb, like what's the math? Are you actually doing $1,200 a month or whatever the van mortgage would be of like travel versus like, oh no, I just do $500 a month of my car, and then that extra $700 a month could be spent on hotels. And but the van fantasy is just so nice.
Yeah, that's my wife's argument every time I talk about it. She's like, you know how many hotels we could get for $80,000? Like
if you just like mark it out, it's like, oh man, I have to be staying at like 7 nights a month at least, like out on the road.
Yeah. I feel like but I don't feel like that's a fair argument, just because like I feel like the driving part and like that is the part that is valuable as well as the like actual sleeping somewhere.
Oh man, the adventure of it is so cool. Like you park on the side of the road and you have all your picnic stuff to be able to do a picnic, and like you have all your bike stuff that's arranged and nice and self-contained versus like, oh, it's all thrown in the back of a truck or something. So some of that magical stuff is pretty good. Of like, oh yeah, we camp at Yosemite because they have van spots and it's not a hotel kind of thing. There's good and bad for sure.
So if you had to do it all over again, not counting COVID, would you still buy another van?
Yeah, because it's been just so cool. I'm so glad I did it, and so many adventures, and kind of that whole impetus was like my Uncle Dennis dying, and like, what am I waiting for? What's the excuses? Like the whole excuse was like, oh, I didn't want it parked out in front of my house because it's like this big ugly vehicle that anyone passes by my house is like, oh, that's where Brian lives. And like, that was kind of one of and the money, of course, but that was kind of the main thing that was like, everything just doesn't have, it's like having kids. Nothing has to be perfect. Like, oh, I need a house that has a RV parking on the side so I could hide the van back there. It's like, whatever. Just go for it and go have the adventures. And it's totally been worth all the adventures.
I think initially you were thinking like, here's my van that I travel in, and then I have my daily driver. And you ended up selling your car though too.
Totally. Right? I did end up selling the car because it's like, what's the point? Especially when used car prices. I think I probably sold a little early, but I was still able to get a really good price on my RAV4 that was like, okay, 18 grand in my pocket or whatever, like selling it to shift.com and be like, okay, sweet. This is actually a huge lift of like, and I can drive the van around daily driver. It will cost you $20,000 in repairs to treat it like a daily driver, apparently, but I do it.
Yeah. Do you think it's just like a bad bad model, or do you feel like it's just?
I don't know, man. It's like I've had so many emails and like not conspiracy theory, but like guys that have like follow this stuff, and like I had like a thermostat go bad, and supposedly there's something related to the thermostat going bad, triggering cylinder 2 in these V6s, and that actually may be related to the engine getting blown up, which, it's not like the whole engine blew up, but like, cylinder 2 blew up or something.
Right.
So like that, and then other random stuff happens, of course, and that's just the little $1,000 here, $1,000 there kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's interesting, it's like some of that conspiracy stuff, you're like, man, you're crazy. And then some of it you listen to and you're like, I don't know, maybe they're onto something,
Yep. Always. And that's the seed of doubt, the misinformation.
Yeah. So what do you like to do for fun outside of mountain biking and YouTube?
What is that? So Sarah and I watched Better Call Saul. That was pretty good. We watched the whole series, and pretty good. We enjoyed it all the way through. It gives you something to like look forward to. And now we got to find a new TV show to watch. And you have any recommendations?
Yeah, let's go ahead. Let's go down that path. Have you seen the show C with Jason Momoa?
No.
It's an Apple
show.
I
know the concept. Yeah, like they're blind and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that one was pretty good. I'm sure Aaron's talking up a storm about the House of the Dragon too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he's big on that whole that timeline or
that universe. Yeah.
That one was pretty fun. I like that. I mean, you're into kind of like techie stuff too. Did you watch the HBO one, Westworld?
I watched maybe the first season and then somehow fell off. But my brother was like, "Oh wow, it keeps going." It's like you get like learn the insides and outs and stuff.
Yeah.
And did you try that Severance on Apple TV?
Oh, I started good things about that one, and I just couldn't lock into it, man. Yeah. I did start on Amazon just the other day. There's one called Peripheral. And
I've been seeing tons of ads on my Twitter for it.
I kept seeing it pop up, and it's like, leave me alone. You kind of come into it like this angry guy, get off my lawn.
Yeah,
like,
it's better
I don't
be
want
good.
to watch you, and then you purposely just like disregard it for a while.
Yeah, totally.
It's kind of like a Ready Player One kind of situation.
VR kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's about these like people in this like VR kind of future and how you can make money that way. And
Yeah. Okay.
It's got that, like, if you like that kind of techie kind of stuff.
I love it when it's done right. I love it when it's done right. Like I kind of watched, there was one more recently where like the guy died and they were able to preserve his soul or something, and he was like in heaven, or like kind of like a heaven where they paid for it, and it was like I just couldn't get into it, like it wasn't techie enough or something, and I was like it's not like good or whatever. I forget what it was called, but it was like I think it was an Amazon one as well.
Yeah, when they do it right, it seems like it's pretty nailed.
Upload.
Like
maybe it's upload one, like upload your brain or something.
Oh yeah, I think I do remember that one.
Yeah.
That peripheral one though, I like it. It kind of reminds me of Mr. Robot. Did you ever watch that?
I didn't. People
that
love
was
that
one of the
though.
first TV shows that I ever watched as an IT guy. That was like,
they got it right.
They're right. Like, because normally you see like, they're like, oh, I'm going to break into the FBI. And it'll be like a DOS prompt, like pinging the server and that's it. You know, and it's like, this is bullshit.
Totally.
Not like, you know, and
my mom as a nurse
real code and like,
okay,
I get it.
My mom as a nurse, when we would watch ER when we were kids, she was just like, you wouldn't do you wouldn't do this. But most of the time they would like kind of get it right. But then like, you're going to kill the patient if you give them that much medicine, and just little errors like that, where they didn't have like the consulting person to like read over the script.
Yeah. That's funny. It reminds me, my daughter has this joke that she always says. She's like, I'm basically a doctor. I've watched 15 seasons of Grey's Anatomy. So
McSteamy.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So yeah, I enjoy some stuff like it seems like somehow my hobbies are also maybe something to do with the channel, or something to like kind of like, I don't know, how do I explain this? Like, for example, I really got into 3D printing lately.
Yeah,
and
cool.
It's like it's been really fun, and it's like kind of like what you were talking about with your grips and stuff. Like, it's really neat to like conceptualize something and then create it. You know?
Yeah.
And
it's beyond me too, because like you have to learn a whole new software set, and you have to like go do the measurements and stuff. It's like, oh man, this is like the detail stuff that I love other people being able to do it, but like I have no patience, or like I can't do that artistic kind of translation stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, though. I mean, because you're creating with your video, it's just not like a tangible thing.
No, it's just not that artist, that design. Like, I love design so much. I love great art, and I just can't do it. I can't do it, just never spent enough time on it. When eventually the robots take over, maybe I'll actually spend time like learning how to draw and like design theory and color theory and all that stuff. That's like, it's just so magical to me. When you see a great design, it's like, wow, that's so cool.
So when you were doing web, you weren't doing graphic stuff. You were just like,
no, I mean, very little like Photoshop stuff here and there, but it's just like not real. Like, I would be tasked to probably do it, but it's like, here you go. It looks like crap. Like this, it's good enough kind of thing.
Right. Do you like to do anything like put Legos together or something like that? Or,
you know, my big thing actually, I kind of forgot, but like when you ask that question, is like DIY around the house. Like, I'm just huge into like improving, like doing stuff around the house, and like I love all these little projects. Like, I just got the new Google Nest Wi-Fi Pro that actually allows you to do like a backhaul, where you could actually put the Ethernet cord into all the Wi-Fis, because I have the regular Google mesh Wi-Fi, and it sucks because you can't put the hard wire into it to actually make the good Wi-Fi in your whole house. So I'm like, oh, I can't wait. Where am I going to put it? I'm going to cut a hole in this and put this in. And I just got a actual decent stereo system for the first time in a long time, and put all the, it's like a 5.1.2 system. So I have the Dolby Atmos speakers that shoot up, and like the subwoofer and like all that stuff, and putting running the wires along the baseboards and hiding them and all that stuff is like super fun. I love all the DIY house stuff. If I had the time and the money, I would totally knock my house down. I would totally just gut the entire thing and start from scratch.
Yeah, there's some things like that. Like, I would love to knock my garage down and rebuild it. As like a still a 2-car garage on the bottom, but like a space above it. And
podcast studio.
Yeah, kind of like instead of being here in the garage, I could be up there in the garage. And then it would be like a space as well if I decided to sell the place. Like, hey, it's
totally
like
income, like income unit or in-law.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that, but there's like so much that you have to do to like be able to do that on your own. Like, cause I've thought about it. Like, how hard is it to get like a contractor's license so I can just do this myself?
Yes. And you could, it's just that time. It's like making those mistakes that you learn the first time. And you're like, oh yeah, it took me 6 months to figure out this, but it's okay. And it's like they always say about building a house or building a van. You build your first for your enemy, your second for your friend, and your third for yourself. So you basically have to go find 2 other garages to build first.
Right. Yeah. So it's one of those things though. It's always on. I enjoy that stuff too. I think what it comes down to is like having I feel like it's all tied to being creative. It's like having an idea and then making it happen. And then when you're done, just just looking at it or actually using it.
And enjoying it.
Rewarding,
Totally. Like kitchens, like my kitchen is like so cramped and like we don't have enough countertop, or we have enough counter space, but the cabinets, there's just not enough cabinets. And it's like, oh, what could I do if I actually reimagine this whole thing? And I feel like when we were kids, people actually could afford remodeling and you could afford to do all this stuff. Like it has become so beyond expensive to do anything. It's like, how does anybody do anything when it's just, oh, that'll be 50 grand, 60 grand, 70 grand. It's like, I can't wrap my head around it sometimes.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, especially if you look at like compared to like in the past. Like,
of course.
Like I was looking at something the other day. I don't know if it was like the price of a car. I think it was the price of a house. And let's just say it was the price of a house in like the 70s. And it was like that
35,000
was like 2 years of the annual of that person's like, annual
like a percentage. Yes,
exactly. And if I look at that now, it's like my annual salary compared to my house is like 6 or 7 years of like my annual salary.
Totally.
Where like that's a huge
it's
change,
a huge difference.
And
without getting on a total Bitcoin rant here, like when the talk about like we want to keep inflation at 2% a year. So like that's the goal for the Federal Reserve. Let's keep inflation down to 2% a year. That still means that like your money's worthless after like 50 years or 30 years. Like if you compound even 2% compounding, which is 1970 to now, 50 years, like it totally destroys your purchasing power. So inflation should be zero or nothing or negative. We should be getting stronger, but obviously that destroys the economy in a different way. So we just all want to keep on getting more debt and getting as much debt as we possibly can and have inflation. And then you think about inflation, even if inflation goes to zero now, we're still going to have these gas prices and shit's going to still be expensive forever. Like it's never going down. It's always going to be this way. So it's like, oh.
I read this article once where they were talking about throughout history that there's been a handful of times when society basically got to a point where they had to just like let go of all the debt. And
every single fiat thing, every single currency that has ever been tried has failed. Like that's the history of the world. It's like the gold standard or Bitcoin is like, if you have the morals to stay on a gold standard or whatever hard money standard, it's fine. You have crazy booms and busts, which people hate. But when you go on like the fiat standard and you just the price of printing $1 trillion is zero. They can print $1 trillion tomorrow for nothing. And that draw, like that temptation is irresistible for politicians and for people. When you don't want pain, you want no pain to happen in the system. You don't want people to blame you and like vote you out. You have to just be like, okay, here's $50,000 for everyone, free money, when it just devalues everything else.
Yeah, it's interesting. It sounds like you look at finances a lot. Do you like dabble with stock market stuff?
I'm obsessed with it right now. Like I've always kind of been obsessed, kind of like I just remember in 2006, before the housing crisis, and when housing prices were just absolutely ridiculous, being like, what is wrong here? I have a normal job. I don't make that much money, but I feel like I should be able to afford something, like some kind of tiny, crappy house. And like, basically that just started me on my journey of like learning about this stuff and what is going on and like seeing, actually like only because I'm so pessimist, like saw the housing bubble kind of coming and like, oh, wow, this is actually not adding up. Obviously not like Big Short or like being able to actually profit off of it or anything. But like, yeah, I've just followed that stuff for so long now and just being like, what is going on? Normal people can't afford normal houses, and you can if you move to like West Virginia and stuff like that. But what is the basis of all this? What is happening?
If I was going to pick something for me to like I usually kind of know what my next rabbit hole is going to be. And I think right now, the one that I keep like bouncing around in the back of my head is stock market stuff, because it's just like, it's one of those things where, you know, first of all, if you do it well, it's like financially lucrative, you know what I mean? And there's a lot of information to like dig into. And it just seems like, I don't know, like the fun part of it, it almost feels like gambling to me.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know,
like, oh, they're up. The earnings. When's the earnings report? Oh, it goes up. It goes down.
Yeah. I have a cousin. Her daughter is, well, she's like 18 or 19 now, but she started with that stuff when she was like a teen, like younger, in her teens. Yeah. And she like let's just say she started with like $1,000. And she's got like $40,000 or $50,000 in her account now, you know, just from
amazing.
And she does like started out like mostly like penny stock kind of stuff, and like a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And it's like, man, that's just really like, that's really cool, you know?
It is.
Like I mean, not necessarily like, hey, man, this is what I want my new career to be, but I feel like that would be fun to be like, hey, I started with $500 and now I have, you know, a new Tesla that I can buy.
Yeah, exactly. It's something. Yeah.
Yeah. So has Aaron talked to you like completely into the Tesla market? You're putting the solar panels on the house and everything?
So interesting, like to think of how, you know, the economy's like, oh, recession and all this stuff, but like how technology and just that's going to hopefully keep charging forward and keep moving forward and keep making things cheaper and making these crazy breakthroughs. And yeah, the more I read about Tesla, the more it's like, wow, it's really something of their being able to scale up with the cars and print the cars out, basically just the manufacturing process and all that stuff is so interesting. And for me, it's like, it's so interesting from a self-sufficient point of view of like, yeah, solar panels, that's so cool. Like, and just like, that should be like a crazy right-wing, like conservative, like, oh, get off my lawn. I'm totally self-sufficient, but it has to be like a crazy left-wing thing of like the climate change and like all that stuff where it's like, I think everybody could love solar panels. If you actually had them on your house, you'd be like, whoa, this is crazy. No matter what prices go up and down with the natural gas or whatever, when you have everything electric and you've got the batteries and all that stuff, and it's all coming down in price too, because it's like the last time you may have checked on it, it's like, oh God, it's $70,000. And then it's like, wait, all these, you get twice as many batteries for half as much money now. And every year it just keeps marching along.
I kind of envision this future where every building in the country has solar on it. And the way that power is actually ran is like, you only use the power company that for like that little bit of time that you actually need to draw more than you can pull. You know?
Or neighbors are connected, like a little neighborhood grid kind of thing. And batteries, like as batteries get bigger, like you just have a big old battery like in your neighborhood where it's like, oh yeah, this powers 50 of our houses. We all threw in money to do this and we're good to go. Especially in California where it's just, we've got the sun.
Yeah, I could see that becoming like like maybe some kind of government like subsidized kind of thing where it takes control of power companies that way. And the grid becomes like everybody's homes, everybody's businesses, you know, like, it'd be interesting. It would be neat to, you know, have a little time machine and just see where we are.
Yes. Oh, that's my whole thing is like, I just want to see what happens next. I love checking the news and checking Twitter and like what's going to happen next. I've always kind of been that kind of future focused of like, oh, what's going to happen, living in interesting times, seeing the next thing happen.
Yeah. It's definitely one of those things where, I like being in IT, I've always questioned myself, like, when I first started, anybody that was in their 60s really was like, I don't know why we're using this stupid thing and this mouse. A pencil and a paper is more productive. And when that thing goes down, you know, so, or maybe they just didn't even understand it. They're like trying to having a hard time conceptualizing like, oh, you just make a new folder in there. It's like having a library, and they just can't wrap their head around it. And
yes.
for me,
You never want to become that guy.
Yeah, but I know it's gonna happen.
Yes,
like regardless
it's
of
impossible, huh?
growing up in technology, there's gonna be something that is like my 1977 brain is just gonna be like, nope, don't get it.
But we gotta, it's like you have to like fight through it. It's like, I don't know about your parents or if they're still around or not, but my parents have iPhones and iPads and like they use them all day, every day. But at first it's just like, and then it's such an easy thing to use and like it works so well. But yeah, it's definitely that initial like skepticism and like so much of the stuff that's happening in the culture today. I thought I would never be like this person that would be like, no, I don't really like that. And now I'm with that person where it's like, oh, what the heck? Like I've become someone I never thought I could be.
I feel like there is a certain age cutoff though, that maybe you're just like, I don't care anymore. And let's just say
the plasticity, of shutting down and like, I can't do it.
For the sake of the conversation, let's just say it's 85 years old, right?
Yeah.
So what is it going to be that when I'm 85 that I'm just like, nope, I don't get it.
Straight like bussin', bro, for real.
Right? Like that's the stuff that I really like. I wonder, like where, because like if you
TikTok was something that came and like I don't want to do it. I've got my YouTube videos. It works fine, and it's like, oh, it is kind of the thing of this short content. But at least I feel like my videos are longer, and I make this long form content. But then someone like Joe Colorado Kid, this was perfect. It's like the short form, the jokes. It's like that is his blossoming, amazing platform to like do what he does best.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that's one of those things where we were talking about earlier about being a creator is like finding the thing that's actually within your niche, like what you're actually good at.
Yep, exactly.
I think, to be honest, like I'm good at this conversation. That's better
keeping
than I am
moving the whole time.
Yeah, better than making like rad POV videos like you. Like, I will keep trying, but I think this is honestly like more like this is fits my skill set better. You know what I mean? But you have to be honest with yourself, and that's hard to do.
It is. Yeah, because everyone has to start with thinking they kind of have a talent and then building that talent and then like somehow, oh wow, I'm actually good at this. And then thinking they have it, but it doesn't work. And that's why it's magical of like when stuff actually works and I could actually make a living off of YouTube. It's like, I don't know, man. It worked.
Yeah. I was thinking earlier, I wonder if there's ever a question that you wished people would ask you that you don't get the answer.
Oh man, that's such a good question. I'm gonna look because I actually had like a little notes thing of like my own little podcast questions, and I think this is. Oh, do I actually have it in here? Oh God, it's gonna take a second for me to find it, but this is a good question.
I'll go ahead and ramble for a little bit.
Yeah, don't take on the rambling.
Steve Y, who I mentioned earlier, he says that digital implants would be the line in the sand for him. So that's when you're talking about getting old. And, I don't feel like that's
I'm all for it. Yeah.
I would totally put a little like NFC chip in my hand so I don't have to carry a wallet anymore or something like that. Like they could just scan my eyeball or something and whatever. I'm like, yeah, it's cool here. Or like being able to like just download some information into me. Like I'm okay with the digital implants. I'm gonna do that.
Sign me up. Like I can't wait for steroids to be more like mainstream for sure. It's like, get me on it. I want to live. It's like the number one indicator of like death is like muscle, like butt muscle and thigh muscle. It's like, let's do it. Right. I'm 40 years old. Maybe I'll wait till I'm 50, but I'm going to be completely jacked by then.
Right. They say that like, as far as aging is really like it's like a sickness. It's like your body not knowing how to like repair itself as well as it did initially. And like there'll be a time when they figure that out. Did you come up with your answer yet?
I'm looking. I think I saw it, but it has nothing like really.
It's not right there, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because sometimes I haven't been interviewed too many times, but sometimes there's like things that come up to me where I'm like, man, I wish somebody asked about that. I don't know what that is right now either.
Yeah. Totally. I know. There's different things. Like for me, it's like just a topic basically of like, I wish we could I wish we could like have like a little alien invasion that's like fake. Because if aliens were here, they would wipe us out immediately. But like an alien invasion where we all got together as human beings and like, screw these guys, we got to kill them, we got to band together, we all work together. Like we need fake aliens to like bring us all together and like break down all these barriers of hating each other. And it's like, for America, it's going to be, okay, we're going to go to war with China and now we all hate the Chinese. I guess that works too, but I'd rather not kill regular people and like have this whole thing in our brain that the Chinese are evil and the Chinese people, at least the leadership, of course. But like, it just, I
don't feel like we need to get in a pissing battle with Russia and like thermonuclear war, right?
Exactly.
We don't need to get back to the 80s.
There's no going back. Like we hate each other so much, the left and the right. It's just such hate. Like, how could it ever gel back together? And it's like, it's hate being that far gone.
It's very the world is very polarized right now, and I think that we've done it to ourselves to stay as objective as we can without going down some kind of line, but
it's tough,
but like ultimately, let's just say because of social media or the way that we like even the news, like the news is the original social media, right? Like what have we taught them through time that if you give us this kind of news, we're excited about it. So they've given us more of that. And then, so the same thing happened with like, with social media and algorithms. And it's like
outrageous stories that are like, that's
things
juicy.
that make me angry is what I actually want to read, and because of all of that, I think what we've done is we've like made ourselves like so separated, because we go in these what do you call it, like a something
filter
like
bubble.
There we go. Like you get yourself in there.
The only news you get is Fox News, so that's like the world you live in. Versus like I gotta jump around and see other things. And okay, I watch this, I take it in from this. Yeah, and especially with podcasts and YouTube videos now, like you can live in that world for sure and never have any other ideas come in. That's why Joe Rogan is pretty good. Of like he does a good devil's advocate. He has all kinds of different voice. I feel like it's different voices and stuff where it's like, oh, I'd never heard that concept before. It's good to kind of get poked a little bit.
Yeah. And I like the ability of like kind of going outside of what you expect the person's going to talk about. That's what I enjoy about this podcast. Like you and I mean, we talked about some like financial stuff and some things like this and that weren't necessarily mountain bikes. And it was like the same thing when I was talking to Seth. At one point, he's like, "Don't you think we should be talking about bikes?" And I'm like, "Actually, this is what's interesting to people like how you feel about the price of tea in China." Like the bikes part, they know that they can watch your channel for that.
Peeling back the onion a little bit. Yeah.
It's super fun. It's fun to like get to know people. So, man, it's been 2 hours. I always have a great time chatting with you, Brian. It's so much fun. We need to get together and pedal though.
I know, in real life. Yeah.
It's been a very long time. So I'll have to catch up with you offline here and find out when we can make that happen. But I really appreciate you being on the show.
No problem.
I appreciate your perspective, and thanks again for getting me into this YouTube game way back when.
My pleasure.
Yeah, man. So all of you that are still listening, if you enjoyed the show, do the thumbs up thing. If you're watching it on YouTube, do the subscribe thing. If you are a podcast listener and you're passionate about how much you like this podcast, go over to the Apple Podcast and write a 5-star review. That makes the algorithm know that this podcast is your favorite. And just like I said a couple episodes ago, I went online the other day and we are now on a top 10 mountain bike podcast list. And that's because you guys going out there, man, going out there and writing these reviews. So it really means a lot. So it may sound like me just bugging you guys or whatever. And some of it is, some of it isn't. But at the end of the day, it really makes a big difference in this thing being successful. If there is nothing else that you want to do that I say, just do this one thing. It only takes a bike to be a biker. Get out and be one.